Okay, Dana Abercrombie, The Koalition. I love this so much. I was educated, I was entertained, I cried throughout. So thank you for that. One of the things I was wondering, was this initially supposed to be about the environment? You're following the bears, the family, and how it's impacted with the environmental change? Or was it more of you're noticing what's going around and how that's impacting the bears? Either one.
I mean, Disney nature, their movies, and we want strong, engaging characters and stories, and we always knew that polar bears would provide that. So initially, it was a polar bear story that we wanted to tell, but we always knew as well that polar bears are at the sort of cutting edge of climate change, and it would have been impossible, in fact, dishonest, to make a movie today about polar bears that didn't refer to it. But and that's why we actually chose to tell the story through the eyes of a 14, 15-year-old polar bear, female polar bear, looking back at her life. Because over that period in Svalbard, where we made the film, there's been significant change. So yeah, the environmental message was always going to be there, but ultimately we hope it's an entertaining and engaging film with the environmental message as an under message rather than the front of the film.
So what I was also wondering with this is with the environment and the impact, and it showed how their different prey has changed. How you showed how there was the seals to beluga whales to walruses. Does that impact in diet negatively impact their digestive system or how their production just overall in general, Jeff?
I think the extraordinary thing about bears is they're very, very good problem solvers. You know, they have an environment that changes naturally throughout the year, and so they always have to be aware of what food is out there for them. And so you know, filming our film shows them hunting harbor seals, you know, which has never been seen before. But also, you know, going as far as eating seaweed when you don't get a harbor seal is also an interesting side of it. You know, going after walrus, going after ring seals, and then actually what we're witnessing more and more in the Arctic is bears having to take risks for their food. And the sequence that shows the bear climbing the bird cliff is a result of that. There's a lot of science now pointing towards bears climbing cliffs more and taking that risk to eat birds and very small bird eggs. And actually, that's not really worth their while. You know, they don't get much out of it. So it goes to show how hungry they are because of the climate change that's happening around them.
I was wondering, how do you decide which bears to follow? Because you created this really great story, but it could have ended any way. As we've seen, there was one tragic thing that happened.
We always knew we were going to tell the story of a female bear because obviously female bears have the cubs, and actually polar bears are loners. Most of the polar bears, the males certainly spend the whole life on their own, and that would be a far less engaging story than a mother struggling to bring up her cubs. And we also knew that the 15-year period would allow us to tell a bigger story than just concentrating on the sort of 4 or 5 years it takes a mother to bring up one set of cubs.
Okay. And lastly, because this is kind of, I really wanted to know, after the mother said goodbye to her bear, did you follow her? Do you know what happened to her?
Well, we know what happens to the bears once they leave her mother is that they're then independent for a very long period of time, you know, up to 3 years. And so you on any given day, you follow your bear as long as you can stay out in an environment. And in that environment where they're hopping around the sea ice flows, you know, it's a very difficult environment. We have a specialized ice breaking, ice strengthened ship that allows us to move through that ice with them. But even still, the bears are very, very good at disappearing into that environment. So we followed her for as long as we possibly could. But, you know, the fact remains that she's not going to see anybody for the next 2 or 3 years because that's bears are solitary. And, you know, that's an extraordinary part of the bears story.
Okay. Thank you so much. I truly loved the film.
Thank you, Dana.